The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
To On Trial, where we debate the merits of your favorite movies. Hope you're ready, Hollywood, because you're on trial.
Hello, everyone. How we doing today? Oyez, oyez. Pipe down, you mugs. I said, oyez. The Right Honorable Dorian Price is presiding tonight. Right Honorable, my ass. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to talk about a movie that has been divisive since the moment it came out in 2012. It had one side of the audience going, okay, the other side of the audience going, the fuck, and the middle audience going, why? But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am here tonight hosting. I know it's so weird. Normally it's the gentleman next to me who's normally talking, but I am here with Mr. Mark Radulich. Mr. Radulich, how are we doing this evening?
I am doing quite well. Listen, the more I can get you mugs to take over the hosting role, and I can just be Talon, the happier I'll be. Because I tell you, trying to round up you cats into a bag so I can drown you in a river. It's tough work. It's hard being out here. It's hard being a pimp out here. I'll tell you that much.
It was all me, James. It's always been me, the author of all your pain.
I'm sorry, that worked. Since Mark Radulich is the author.
Somebody is just now finding out about the soundboard and is so happy.
The power. But no, yes, folks, hope you're doing well this lovely Sunday evening. Actually come up with a name for our fans. I'm going to start calling you all Radheads because that means you're fans of the Radulich Network and you're here with us. So like I said, we're going to be talking about Prometheus tonight. Again, a movie that if you haven't seen, why are you here? I mean, we're glad you're here, but why are you here?
It's because they all think Dorian is sexy.
That's the only.
Half of the people that are watching right now are here because you're a sexy beast, and they just want to look at you talking. The other half are waiting to see if I abuse you as much as I do Alexis.
They're just sitting there going, "Do it, Mark. Give in to your hatred." But no, so I don't want to waste all y'all's time tonight. We're going to go through really quickly through the plot synopsis of this movie, if the internet will be nice to me, which it probably usually won't. But this movie, Prometheus, is set in the late 21st century. The film centers on a crew of a spaceship, Prometheus, as it follows a star map discovered by artifacts on several ancient Earth cultures, seeking the origins of humanity. Because if looking for God worked in Star Trek V, why not do it again? The crew arrives on a distant world and discovers a threat that could cause the extinction of the human species. Ridley Scott is the director. He and James Cameron actually developed the idea of the film that would serve as a prequel to the Alien series, because you know what? We definitely wanted that. So, Mr. Radulich, a quick question for you just before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this shit. How did you come to this movie? Were you an Alien fan before? Or
yeah. We talked about this when we reviewed Alien Romulus. The very first Aliens movie I saw in theaters, and it was Aliens. I begged him, I tell you, to bring me to see Howard the Duck because I didn't want to see the scary Aliens movie, and he said, "Shut up, you pansy." And he dragged me, I tell you, into the theater, and I loved it. And I was glad, aside from the one scene with the chest burster, I love the movie. I have quoted it numerous times, mostly Hicks's lines. I believe it's Hicks. We're in some real pretty shit now. But other great lines too. Like, what are we supposed to use? Harsh language. I still say that to people.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Saw Alien 3 in theaters, saw Alien Resurrection in theaters. So I've, and then I went back during my snooty film years and watched the original Alien. So I was all caught up when Prometheus came out, and I had gotten the same sort of gist, that everyone else got. Oh, this is a prequel to Alien. We're going to find out where the xenomorphs came from, because the Alien franchise never really dealt with the origin of things. They're always on some other colony somewhere. We don't know how they got there. We don't know where they came from. We just, the original Alien, they come upon a nest of eggs in a colony that was already there. So we have no idea how these eggs got, which came first, the colonists or the eggs. And then again, and
The
then
age-old question.
yes, and then again, we go in Aliens. It's another colony, and they've lost contact with them. But for why? Alien 3, we don't really deal with that because the alien is on the ship with Ripley when it gets to the prison planet, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then the fourth one, they were using them as bioweapons, as all evil corporations do. So how did I get to Prometheus? I was a huge fan of the franchise, and I saw this in the theater because I wanted to see where the aliens came from. And when it was over, I went, "Quack." So here we are.
That is fair. That is fair. Mine was very similar. The trailer came out, and I was like, "Oh, cool, new thing from Ridley Scott." Because as a film director, Ridley Scott's a big inspiration to me, and I've loved a lot of what he's done. Even some of his not so great stuff. I can still go, okay, it was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But when this came out, I was like,
I just showed my kid Gladiator for the first time today. Gladiator is gorgeous, just an awesome, almost perfect movie. So
was he not entertained?
He was quite entertained. And then, of course, he also made Napoleon last year, which was not so good.
No, it wasn't. But again, it's one of those, and I would say this to the man's face. There was a moment where Ridley Scott stopped being an artist and became an artist.
Sure.
And that kind of drug us downhill.
Happens to the best of us.
But so again, this is not going to be your normal on trial. We're not going to beat the ever-loving crap out of this thing. We're basically going to decide whether this movie deserves all the hate it gets and all the, again, the fuck it gets, or if it's a gem that just was handled a little incorrectly. So, Mr. Radulich, my first question to you.
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that this movie should have been an Alien prequel, or do you believe it should have been its own standalone story? Because Ridley Scott's already done sci-fi before that was not Alien, obviously, in Blade Runner, one of his most famous films. Should this have been its own standalone, let's go find God and do it better than Star Trek V did, or should it have been an Alien prequel? Do you think it stands on its own merits?
I don't think in the marketing or in any of the discussions of this movie, the word alien should have been mentioned. If I'm the producer on this and Ridley Scott comes to me and he says, I want to do an Alien prequel, I go, great, what's your pitch? Well, the aliens will only show up in the last 10 seconds of the movie, and it's only kind of a xenomorph. After I throw Ridley Scott from the building, I bring in somebody else and said, hey, he had an idea. He's a nut job. Let's do something, with adults here, not this child. What I'm trying to get at is, it's a perfectly interesting story about the nature of faith and where does life come from and how to reconcile those things. And I think an alien world of horrors that these astronauts land on as they're trying to find God is an interesting pitch. It should have come as a complete shock to everyone at the end, when the thing pops out and it kind of looks like a xenomorph.
Mm-hmm.
Then okay, I still the ending of the movie is fine if you don't know what's going to happen. Going into the movie thinking this is an Alien prequel was a bad idea, and the reason being, and I'll keep this quick so that you can jump back into the conversation. The average movie going public, it's hard to get their attention and keep it. And when you promise one thing and don't deliver it, you piss people off. I mean, Prometheus is a perfectly fine horror movie, space horror movie. What it's not is a good Alien prequel.
I absolutely agree.
And you promise people an Alien prequel, and that's all they focus on. So they throw the baby out with the bathwater because you lied and told them it's something that it's not.
Absolutely. Again, I think, and this is one of my favorite of Chris Nolan's, actually my absolute favorite of Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy was Batman Begins. Now, it took us about 42 minutes to get to Batman, but again, we really felt the journey as we got there. This movie, I don't think, gave us that journey we were looking for. Because again, Alien, the original 1979 Alien, is still hailed as one of the best horror movies of all time, and I agree with them. The trailer alone is terrifying for the original Alien.
Right.
And Ridley Scott is such a fantastic director. He works with great cinematographers. And again, before we go any further, this movie's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is well shot. It is well acted as much as it can be. I mean, the story's lacking. So again, the poor actors are going, we're trying our best.
May I, Your Honor, may I may I object and throw in this piece of observation that I made? I watched this yesterday with my son.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. As a quick, I now hate this. I wish I were in charge. I gave up my power for 20 minutes and I already hate it. I watched this with my son and I gave my daughter, who is 13, the choice of watching it with us. She said, "Just call me when the girl gives herself her own abortion."
Right.
Okay, Lily. So
may I say, with all due respect, that I love both of your children. And I can't wait to meet them.
they're pretty awesome.
I've heard so much about you. I must meet you in person.
So I hear you're interested in giving yourself an abortion. Not me, you slop artist. I mean the girl. She's fine. I want to watch her do it. Which was what she would say. I don't know why she's Daffy Duck in that. But anyway, yeah. So my son I wanted to watch it with my son because we were doing the podcast tonight, and my daughter goes, "Yeah, just call me when the girl gives herself an abortion." I'm like, hot dog. And my son and I are watching it, and my son at the end of it goes, "This was a good movie, but it's really, really slow and feels very disjointed." And we both came to the same, and he's not wrong. And we both came to the same conclusion. This feels like they tried to take an entire 10-episode television series and cram it into a 2-hour movie.
Yes. Like, again, this is something that I've discussed with my film professors, because this movie comes up, especially in cinematography class, because again, like I said, it's got great cinematography, but Ridley Scott always has great cinematography,
right.
But it was literally something I brought up myself, and I'm glad that you said it, is he asked, what the hell's wrong with this movie? And 10 words or less, and I went, it should have been a TV show. And he was like, my man.
Yeah. There's a lot happening in this movie, and they have to speed run it because you've only got 2 hours. Almost everything that happens to all the astronauts in this movie could have been its own episode. And the stuff with the engineers got speed run too, and there should have been I don't know if you've ever seen the anime Man Baby Devil something Crybaby. Ugh.
I have not yet. Unfortunately, it has some elements in there that are kind of trigger personally, so I have not cowboyed up enough yet to watch it. But
it's Devilman Crybaby, isn't it? Is what it's called?
Yes.
Okay. Robert and I reviewed that a couple of years ago at his request. He was like, "There's a couple of things I'd really like to watch with you, see if it doesn't bother you too much." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." One of those was Devilman Crybaby. And,
wow, Robert's the one who suggested. Okay,
yeah,
go Robert.
We also did Keep Your Hands Off Izukin. Yes,
Damn, Robert. Damn, bitchy Yoga Mom, I have underestimated you.
Oh no, he loves his anime, and he definitely has some. He got me to do the Babadook, Ink. He's had some really weird pitches.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert is about one bad day away from becoming a freaking supervillain. So strap in.
So anyway,
at
the end of Devilman Crybaby, if you'll recall, about an episode or two towards the end, they blew up the world, and then like the two main characters spend an episode or two just sort of reflecting. And I kind of needed that for Prometheus. Like, there needed to be some time spent with the engineers and some reflection. Because upon successive rewatches and reading, yes, you get that the engineers created the humans. The engineers then decided, like most humans, like most humans, AI and other beings, humanity stinks and it needs to go. And then they changed their mind again. And then the one engineer's like, "No, no, sir, I'm committed to this." And
actually, I'm going to break in right there and bring up something that's very important. At least it is to me. There's an issue I have, again, as a storyteller, that if we keep telling the same story, you get bored. We understand humanity can suck. This movie had an ultimate chance to tell a story. Take two. This movie had the ultimate chance and failed at it to tell a story where it's like, yes, we know humanity has its faults and its failures, but there's beauty in them too. I'm like, I'm drawn to the line from Age of Ultron, which again, I wish Mr. Matt Kettner was here because he could quote it better than I can. there's beauty in their failings.
Mhm.
There should have been that situation.
I got a better line for you.
Fire.
Star Trek V. You know, I want to take away your pain, Captain Kirk. No, I need my pain. My pain is what makes me me.
Yeah. What? So I should have gone left when I went right?
Right.
Bones, you know pain can't be taken away by the wave of a magic wand?
Yes. It's the only part of Star Trek V that's worth the shit.
Actually, no, and I just brought up Mr. Matt Kettner, and if he's watching, he'll love this. Every time that movie comes on, he watches it for one moment because Mr. Matt Kettner is also my sensei in real life. And every time he watches that movie and it gets to the point where they're talking to God, he's like, Dorian, I see you in this moment where Jim Kirk walks up and goes, excuse me, what does God need with a starship? He's like, we'd be facing ultimate death, and you'd be the dumb kid who walks up and goes, excuse me, sorry, quick question.
You and my son have a lot in common.
Yay! But no, again, back to point here is it's this. We get that humanity sucks, but why do we need why do we need to keep beating that point home? We get it. So why do you think here's a better question to you? Why do you think that movies and Ridley Scott, especially with his science fiction films, again, because Blade Runner is kind of the same thing. Humanity sucks. These poor replicants, they're just trying to live. I mean, they're crushing people's heads, but hey, who hasn't done that once? Why do you think it is such a prevailing wind in films that we have to hammer in that humanity sucks?
Did you watch The Acolyte? It's a rhetorical question. I know you did.
I was there. I defended you.
I was listening to the Critical Drinker on his Open Bar podcast talk about The Acolyte, and one of the things that the panel was discussing was how angry, frustrated, dissatisfied the writers of that show seemed like they were with life in general, and were kind of using The Acolyte to sort of voice their displeasures about certain things.
I'd agree.
Which I don't disagree with that. Their take on it is don't do that with Star Wars, or do it better than this.
Yes,
which is a whole other conversation. Film as criticism of life is not a new concept.
No.
So why when you're looking at such a big question, what is wrong with humanity? Remember, it's being asked by people who I'm sure have suffered the slings and arrows and traumas of having just lived a life. And they're reflecting back on it like, why is everything such an uphill slog? Why do people disappoint you? Why do things that should have worked out when you did the hard work still don't? And I think when you write characters like the engineer, and the engineer, and this is, I don't want to take this right back to the film. I needed more time spent with the engineers and with and them saying in some way what the issues with humanity are, because it's short shrift to be like, well, humanity sucks, and which is why you're now asking that question, like, why did you even put this in the movie? What is this? What was the point of all of this? Why did you do it this way? Because you as the viewer don't understand what the issue the engineer has.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have Noomi Rapace's character like screaming at him like women do,
the Radulich Network does not endorse beating up either verbally or physically of women.
Welcome to Casual Misogyny. I'm your host. So apparently my girlfriend said,
hey, I was host for 54 seconds, 18 minutes and 54 seconds. It was a fun run, folks. I'll see you next time.
My girlfriend apparently used the phrase casual misogyny at work and cracked up all the other female coworkers. So there's some juice here. Anyway, so when she's screaming at the engineer, like, why do you hate us? Yeah, the audience is asking the same goddamn question. And the engineer,
except they're asking it to Ridley Scott.
Yeah. So
why do you hate us?
Yeah, I think, which I think also goes to a lot of like the bubble mentality for people in Hollywood, of when you're only talking to your own friends, you assume everyone thinks like you do. So there's no need to explain why you have such hate and frustration with the world at large, because all of your friends all your friends are in agreement with you. You don't have to explain it to people. which is why I don't really want to always talk to the people who think and believe the same way that I do. Part of the reason why I do what I do on here is I want different voices. I want different perspectives. What I don't want is total agreement, because then I never get challenged.
Yeah.
And the problem with a lot of people who make film, the problem with The Acolyte, is it was a bunch of people all in agreement, all saying the same thing, and not a single person in the room going, but I don't understand what your problem is. You have to explain it.
Yeah,
Because they believe everyone thinks that they as they do, and they'll get it, and not everyone does.
Absolutely. And I brought this up on the Acolyte podcast. It's like, does Star Wars or Disney just hate the Jedi? And if so, can I get an explanation why?
Yeah.
And again, I think it's the same thing with this movie.
Yes.
Is, okay, if you hate humanity, fine. I agree. There's a whole bunch of problems with humanity. And again, that's not what this podcast's about. So we're not going to get into that rabbit hole. Tune in next time for Dorian and Mark's Pillow Talk.
Well, hang on. Let me so you threw a pillow talk. I got to talk about Jesus.
I can hear thousands of fans going, "Damn it, Dorian!"
Well, no, I mean, if you look at traditional Christian mythology and belief, the accepted mentality is that humanity is inherently flawed, which is why Jesus has to sacrifice himself to save humanity. You know, Jesus, the whole like Christian mythos, which is shared by all kinds of other religions, but let's just focus on Christianity. And it goes exactly to what they're talking about in Prometheus. So people are just like, where is he going with this? No, I'm talking about the movie. Trust me. When you have, you know, the whole idea is that when you have, you know, like, what is it that they say? You know, forgive them, my Lord, for they know not what they do. Right. So it's like that's kind of where the engineers are. What they're trying to get us to think that they're coming from. The movie doesn't do a great job of this. This is me kind of projecting a lot, you know, and interpreting. But it's there. You just got to dig for it. And it's essentially, you know, humanity knows not what it does. And, you know, and instead of sacrificing oneself to save them, there's just, no, we're just going to destroy them. It's a very nihilistic approach to the same topic.
I was literally about to bring up, it's very nihilist. And I think that could work in a movie. But again, we need the balance point, which I think is what this movie's missing. Is we don't have a balance point.
Yes.
Noomi Rapace does a fantastic job. Again, every actor in this is kicking their own ass to live up to Sigourney Weaver and Ian Holm and such, you know, Yaphet Kotto from the original movie. And they're trying so hard, but they don't have enough to work with because there is no balance point.
I don't think anyone knew what this movie was about when they were making it.
I don't either. It's almost like, it almost feels like they brought them the script and kind of, you know, oh, it's not an alien movie. It's just a random sci-fi movie. And then they kind of felt like halfway through the movie, it went, they feel like they go, hang on, this is an alien movie. Oh shit. Now we got to upgrade, you know, and it didn't land. Again, like what I was saying is we need that balance point of, yes, we will destroy humanity because humanity sucks. Okay. I get that. And again, going back to scripture, you know, you talk about theology and God. When God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham's like, okay, if I can find 10 good people, will you leave it alone? If you can find 10, cool. Okay, what if I can only find 5? Screw it. What if I can only find 1? You know, we needed that Abraham character who's begging, you know, there's good here. And we needed to explore why there's good.
Right.
And then use the xenomorphs as the ultimate version of, basically, I would go so far as going, if humanity's not careful, this is what you'll become.
I also think again, you know, this is supposed to be a prequel to Alien. This is the origin of the xenomorphs. I actually think this was handled stupidly because I don't remember what it is the engineers' plan for humanity is, but it should have been put the eggs on Earth and just left it, you know.
We did that in Alien versus Predator, and look how that turned out.
Well, that's the thing. That should have been their plan. See, the problem is this is kind of like the midichlorians of the alien world, where it's like,
don't you blaspheme in here! Don't you blaspheme in here!
What I mean by that, it was like we couldn't just accept the fact that this was like, some light Buddhism. We had to give like a scientific explanation for why there is the Force, why there are Jedi, yada yada. So they did midichlorians to everyone's frustration.
So real quick, I don't remember who the comedian was who talked about it, but he was talking about that very thing where he was like, "Do you remember when?" Most of you were probably too young for this, and I know I was, but it was like, do you remember when you watched Star Wars the first time and you went, okay, if I believe hard enough and I work hard enough, I could be a Jedi and I could use the Force. And George Lucas comes in and goes, actually, no, you have to have certain like germs in your belly, kind of that make you use the Force.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt, different comedian, different bit. But he was like, "Oh, we're gonna do new Star Wars movies. We're actually gonna do the prequels. We're gonna show you the downfall of Darth Vader." Like, oh, that's amazing, George. What are you going to start with? We're going to start with when Darth Vader was a little kid. We're too far back, George.
I don't care about.
Yeah, I don't care about any of this. Yeah.
I just kind of want to see him with the cape and the helmet. Oh, but
Right.
Don't worry. In the second movie, we bring in Boba Fett. I don't care.
Yeah, you know the bit. Same thing with the Xenomorphs. The Xenomorphs should have. All we needed to know was the engineers made them. They made these godless killing machines, and they are beset upon a world the engineers want to destroy because they can. They cannot be stopped. They cannot be killed. They cannot be reasoned with. So, we have we make queens. Queens lay eggs. Eggs hatch. Lobster. Lots of lobster. That's it. That should have been in Prometheus. The fact that we did we have to go all the way back to Anakin as a child. We have to go all the way back to seeing how, like, this squid thing, which is a precursor to the face huggers, did a thing with the engineer and out popped, the very first xenomorph. It's like, nobody gives a fuck. We didn't need to see this, and you put it at the end of the movie, so who cares?
Yeah, and that's why when I started this, I was like, I asked you the question, and you answered it, was, do you believe that this should have been an Alien movie? Right. No.
The premise itself works just fine.
Yeah.
We're on an expedition because we think we found the people that created us.
Yes.
And behind all of this, the reason why he's funding this mission is because he thinks that if we find the people that created us, he's dying and he will find the fountain of youth. Fine. That all works.
Cool. Yeah, just make that movie. But again, it's like with every big horror icon, and I'll use Michael Myers as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The less we know, the more terrifying it is.
The other thing about this is we really didn't need the David character doing what he was doing. Because
to be clear, Michael Fassbender is fantastic in this.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He was unnecessary.
Well, he's an ode to every android in every Alien movie who has to bring the alien home for Weyland-Yutani. And it was like, again, we're not doing that yet.
We're not there. Give us a sec.
So stop doing evil fucking androids already.
Isn't Alien 3 the only movie that doesn't have an android in it?
That I recall.
Yeah.
Just a lot of Cockney men shaving their heads because of the damn lice. And a dog alien.
Why do you hurt us so bad? No, it's this movie had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
In it, and a lot of people were excited about it. And one of the things that really gets me about where they went with it is that every Alien movie since then has been called Alien Covenant or Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
This movie was just called Prometheus, not Alien Prometheus. So again, it needed to be a standalone thing, and I don't know why there were. Again, this is why, Mr. Radulich, you need to go to Hollywood, become a producer, and get things fixed. Shout out in the comments if you agree with me. But it's the entire problem of, oh well, everyone loves aliens, and we'll do that. I mean, everyone loves The Crow. Why not do that again?
Not to mention, you confuse the fuck out of the audience.
Yeah.
Again, the audience. No one went to this thing because the pitch was, I want to go see the sci-fi horror movie about the people who go to find God. People might have gone to that movie, but not as many. Again, would have worked better as a television show, but we've beat that horse to death now. But if you say, but it's an Alien prequel, now you get all the Alien fans. Is the soundboard fun?
It is fun. I warned you I'm a 12-year-old kid.
Really?
You knew what you were getting into.
So my point being that, and I do have one, is that you can't say it's a fucking Alien prequel and then not show us aliens by the end of the first act. Go fuck yourself. That's a bait
Yeah.
switch. And that's the thing is, like I said, it's now 12 years later, and I'm watching it with my son, and I had to tell him, yeah, it's kind of an Alien prequel, but not really. Don't get your hopes up. Just watch the horror movie; it'll be fine. Just to his 10-year-old. And
Hey, honey, the girl's about to give herself an abortion. Get in here.
so this is family entertainment at the Radulich household. So
I'm a good parent.
my God, I got shit from my parents tonight. They were like, "Why would you bring your kids to The Crow?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to take this from the people who left porn lying around the house. Go fuck yourselves." So, anywho,
Go ye therefore and fornicate with thyself.
not above telling my parents to go fuck themselves. Anywho, I'm a good son. My
Hope
point
you're watching, Mr. and Mrs. Radulich Sr.
My mom might. But anyway, yeah, they definitely needed to draw a line in the sand because and this is what I was starting to say at the beginning of the podcast when you asked this question. You have to be clear in your marketing. You have to be clear in your presentation. Your audience doesn't have the patience for nuance.
No.
You know, and so if you're going Alien prequel, then you got to show us aliens by the end of that first act, or it's a no-go.
And again, when you talk about a TV show, imagine like 3 episodes in. I mean, take your time, explain stuff. But imagine 3 episodes in, the last, like they did in the movie, that's the last end of like episode 3. And then it cuts to black and we're on freaking credits. And we're going, no, we need more.
Right.
And I think that, again, that's what it was missing. But however, I know there are people, and a couple of them are watching, I know, who actually like this movie. Give me 3 things, Mr. Radulich, that you think are good about this movie. Gun to your head. We've tied you to a chair in the basement.
Cinematography is beautiful. I love the look of this movie. The photography, the cinematography, this all works. It's a very pretty movie. That's number 1. Number 2, if you put away the alien stuff and you just deal with dumb scientist finding, a house of horrors on this planet, it works just fine as a space horror movie. And right down to this, despite the fact that we have supposedly scientists on this, like they're all like, "I'm gonna touch the snake. I'm gonna put my hand on it." Hey, pretty lady. What is wrong with my son and I? Dude, my son had the biggest belly laugh at why is he touching the snake? It looked like a snake, but and yeah, that is correct, Marker Jones. The score is actually really, really well done. Yeah, but so morons touching things they shouldn't touching and getting killed for it. Awesome. I'm not a huge fan of gross, but I can acknowledge when gross is done well, and there's a lot of great gross in this movie. This, the abortion and then the aforementioned squid. All of that stuff works. I get when she gives herself the abortion and she pulls out the squid, that thing trying to get out of the vice grip is actually really terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
There was I know the movie, I've watched it, and even then I'm watching this really, really tense, and it was one of the few times I told my son, please stop doing shtick. I want to focus here.
This is not Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, he likes to riff.
So do I.
Yeah, oh my God. So, but it's genuinely terrifying. And I'm sorry. You said name 3 good things. This is not necessarily a good thing, but it comes from a good place. There are some truly stupid moments in this movie that make me laugh hard. My son and I hooting and hollering at the TV as we're yelling, run left, just turn. And generating the now known as the Prometheus school of running
away from things.
Yes.
Ding.
I died laughing, and like I said, I can't knock the movie when it gave me that much. I mean, it wasn't supposed to make you laugh, but they're so dumb. It's such good stuff. I mean, and the performances are also well done. Idris Elba's great. Charlize Theron plays her usual stony, icy self. Noomi Rapace is great. All of the other guys are sufficiently stupid. I think God damn it, if it's not in the Alien franchise, this works as space horror.
Yeah.
Almost perfectly.
And I think that's one of the biggest issues with it is that, again, and we have beat this horse to death, but I'm not going to play the clip again. It shouldn't have been an Alien movie.
No.
It should have been its own standalone thing. What is the biggest thing, other than it not needing to be an Alien movie, that, again, I change time, I throw you in the TARDIS, and we're back in time, and we've got Ridley Scott by the throat, and we can do whatever we want. What is the biggest thing that you think personally could be changed and make this movie better?
Yeah, the script needed to be, the whole movie needs to be shorter. This fucking thing clocked in at over 2 hours. It's a 90-minute feature at best. You want to go maybe 100 minutes flat, fine. But any producer who isn't afraid to tell Ridley Scott no, lest he throw a tantrum, says, "Cut this movie. Holy cow." This is
okay. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Miss Shay Wall, who's one of our fans. She's also been on the show before. Apparently, you're completely wrong, Mr. Radulich. The thing we needed to fix Prometheus was we needed more Brad Dourif.
She's cute. She can say that.
That's fair.
But
Yeah,
this entire script needed another pass through editing. We said at the beginning of the show, aside from the fact it shouldn't have been an Alien movie, the biggest thing you and I agreed on as far as a criticism is how disjointed it is. Everything feels a little too disconnected and episodic. This is happening with this group of people. This is happening with this group of people. There's a lack of narrative flow from one thing to another. They are either speed running or mashing things together, so nothing gets time to breathe. And a lot of time is spent on some of the action set pieces, like the rock storm or whatever the hell is happening at the end of that one scene. But it's weird because it's like it's not paced well at all. It's either it's too slow in parts, and then they realize it's too slow, so they're like jacking up the speed. It's like, no, you sped through the parts that needed to be focused on and slower, and you slowed down the parts that you could have sped up.
It feels like a train that's going through the Rocky Mountains, and that's what they speed through. So we can't even look at the mountains and enjoy them. And then when they get to Kansas, they put the brakes on, and we're going.
If you said you've been to New York. If you've ever taken the Long Island Railroad from Massapequa to Penn Station, it's a bit specific, but go with it.
I'm going.
You kind of speed through Massapequa to Jamaica Station. Like, they're stopping at stops. You have to, but it's vroom, and you're at the next stop, vroom, and and you can't really see anything or really take in the wonderful sights of Long Island, New York. And then you go into like the tunnel as between Long Island and Manhattan Island before you get into Penn Station, and half the time the train gets fucking stuck.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting in a hot ass tunnel with nothing to look at.
Oh, what lovely concrete.
Yeah.
They made a hell of a tunnel, I'll tell you that.
It's a good thing I'm here for a job interview. I can sweat through my suit. So that's kind of what this movie feels like to me.
Go to the interview, get stuck in the tunnel, got stuck in the tunnel. I feel you, bro.
Yeah. We're speeding through all the pretty stuff, and then at the stuff that we could have sped up through and we didn't need to spend time on, this is where we're stuck for some stupid reason. So another pass through editing, fix the pacing issues, flesh out the stuff with the engineer, flesh out why certain things are happening, and don't connect this to aliens. Lobster.
Absolutely. Now I got one more question for you.
So how do we get out of this chicken shit outfit?
I wish. And this one's very near and dear to my heart because, again, as a filmmaker and a director myself, I also realize eventually I will get old. As the greatest line from Tina Fey, you will get old one day. But do you believe that Ridley Scott should have directed this, or should he have produced it and handed it to another director? And I will suggest, I'm not putting this on the table as a forceful thing. I want your thoughts too. Neil Blomkamp in charge.
Yeah, I'll go along with that just to keep it simple and quick. I think Ridley Scott producing it. I have the same problem with a lot of big time directors, is that they don't collaborate anymore. They've gotten so big, they just bring it, kind of what I was saying with writers and Hollywood just in general. They create a bubble around them of people that are just willing to agree with them because they want to hang on, and that collaboration that made them what they are goes right out the window.
Oh yeah,
why
they become like the lemur from Madagascar. Feel free to bask in my glow.
Yeah, and it drives me up the wall because people ask, without going too much of a tangent, why do I work with, you brought them up before, but for those of you who don't know, my main podcast that I do is Damn You Hollywood, and I work with Robert Winfrey, and we don't agree on anything. It's great. And it's made us both better reviewers, better podcasters. It's brought about a great friendship because both of us had
better film lovers.
Yes, because both of us had to learn how to talk to each other when we agreed on nothing. You know, you listen to some of the early stuff. I'm actually shocked at some of his opinions, and he's really frustrated by mine. It's awesome. And so now, like, you know, so if you've only been watching since Dorian's been a part of this, so maybe like the past year, you know, and you're just like, wow, Mark and Robert really seem like they've got good synergy together. Like they work hand in glove. Yeah, that was a long time coming. That's the kind of collaboration that I think makes the magic. Is when two people who can keep each other in check, say no to each other, call each other on their bullshit. My favorite Robert moment was when I was teasing him, and I was like, why are you bringing that up? That's stupid. And I did it to him 2 or 3 times, and finally he snapped at me and said, I'm on this podcast. I'm going to talk about how I feel about something. All right, fair.
All right, honey. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, but like,
I swear to God, I'll pick my socks up. Don't hurt me.
I'm not afraid to put anyone in their place. I fear no man. But occasionally I have to be put in my place because I too can get a big head about me. I too can be out of line, and sometimes somebody has to remind me, you're kind of being a dick to Alexis. Knock it off. Okay, but she brought it on herself.
Who here hasn't been a dick to Alexis at some time? Because Alexis has been a dick to all of us.
I mean, Radulich is be a dick to Alexis in Croatian. So,
I knew that actually.
My point is, it's that collaboration and that antagonism that makes great art, because that's what comes out of it. You know, like we were talking about Star Wars earlier. You know, famously. Yeah, you know, George Lucas, you know, filmed this ridiculous thing, and you know, I think it's his wife that came along and edited the thing, and it was quote unquote saved in editing. I guarantee you that if you know George Lucas watched a lot of that editing process, it was like, no, my baby, I have to talk about where lightsabers come from, and she's like, get the fuck out of the editing bay, you psycho.
Nobody cares.
Right, you know,
because and that's the problem. Like again with the prequels, and again this being a prequel, this is why it fits. Is that nobody argued with Ridley Scott by the time we get to this, because he is such a god.
Yeah,
at this point,
everyone's revering him because he's the aliens guy, and it's like, all right, but he's still also a guy.
Well, and the worst part is like when the fact that James Cameron and him worked on this together. It's like you're going to argue with Ridley Scott and James Cameron, and again, we need young filmmakers. You know, again, I'm not putting myself in this, but like. Again, if I were in this situation, I'd probably gotten fired for it. But I'm like, guys, this doesn't work. You know, we can do this, but as a fan of this, you know, And again, it'd been the same thing, Mr. Radulich. If you had been on that set as well, you would have brought that up. And again, that is one of the things that is pervading film today, is that the great artists that, you know, we worshipped and we loved and we were inspired by aren't getting argued with anymore, because they have achieved this sense of quote unquote, please notice the bunny ears, godhood that everyone's so afraid of.
The Acolytes could have been so much better had there been an adult in the room to tell Leslie Headland, no, don't do it, not this way, at least.
Not that far. Yeah, take a step back.
Right.
But
I don't want to get into a whole thing, but I mean, there's a variety of reasons people don't say no. You know, we talked about this when you and dear sweet friend of mine and talented artist Alexis Haina talked about the offer. Talked about the offer, and I said I would have loved to have been a Hollywood producer, because I'm not afraid to say no to people. I'm not afraid to be the bad guy. You know, it happens on this pod. It happens with Radulich and Broadcasting Network a lot, actually. And this will be the last thing I say, because I told you we need to be soft out in 45.
Oh no, I'm watching the time. I was about to give you the get on with it.
You're a good boy. It's you gotta not be afraid to be the bad guy. People need to be told no for their own good, and I don't care what people think of me. When I know I'm right, when you know, Miles Teller's character, Al Ruddy, if it's for the good of the project, if it's for the good of the film, it's for the good of the podcast, I'm gonna hurt your fucking feelings. You'll live.
Yeah.
And
Suck it up.
that's what needed to happen here with Prometheus. It's somebody needed to tell Ridley Scott, no, you big psycho. not this way, not the way you're doing it. Do it this way, and hurt his feelings.
Yeah. And again, nobody's prepared to do that. And so again, to wrap it up here, folks, again, tell us in the comments what you thought about this movie. Do you agree with us? Did you hate it? Did you love it? You know, because I know there's at least one person out there that this is their favorite fucking movie of all time, and I'd love to talk with you. But yes, this has been On Trial. Thank you for everyone who tuned in and talked about it in the comments. Mr. Radulich, tell us what's coming next on the Radulich Podcasting Network.
Well, tomorrow, 87 of you fuckers are...
It's not my fault.
Aren't going to mob my perfectly nice podcast, my special time with my good friend, Robert Winfrey. And allegedly, there's going to be a review of Beetlejuice somewhere in there. Speaking of it, I have to be now a dick to everybody. It's like, there's 87 of you, shut up. Like, we need to go. Speaking of
Get on with it.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. So tomorrow, that was a dumb way of me to say, tomorrow there will be a lot of us discussing Beetlejuice on Damn You Hollywood. It'll be myself, Alexis Robert, Jason Teasley, Dorian Price, Mick Wanamaker, Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, Alvin Simon Theodore, the whole get-along gang. It'll be
Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
Yes.
And Mark Radulich.
And Thursday, decidedly like the opposite of this, it's just me and Ronnie Adams because God help me, I can only talk to one person sometimes. We're doing a Whiskey Rebellion. Whiskey Rebellion is my magazine-style podcast where we pick a topic and we run with it. And the topic Ronnie picked was old school wrestling. So we're going to talk Mid-Atlantic, Florida Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-South. That's the one I couldn't remember the last time I did this plug. You know, NWA, the whole kit and caboodle. We're going to talk old school, probably stick very much in the 70s, maybe the 60s, whatever Ronnie wants to talk about. We'll talk for an hour and a good time will be had by all. If you like Dorian, and who doesn't, you should check him out on every single podcast for the past month. Last week, him and Shay came on and we talked the original Beetlejuice. A week ago, Monday, the aforementioned The Offer podcast on TV Party with him and Alexis Hana. So check that out. But more importantly than all of that, the most important thing, I am at Mark Radulich on TikTok. Look, if you don't got time for an hour or 2 hour long podcast, and who does, but you want to get the meat and potatoes of this in 20 to 30 minute blocks, go on my TikTok. It's all there. I cut these things up to between 10 and 30 minute segments now. And it's all on my TikTok at Mark Radulich. And occasionally you get to see a TikTok of my kids doing fun stuff. So that's all also worth it. The last, there are two different sing-alongs on there. One is me and my daughter doing a sing-along to the Imperial March. I understand there are no words to the Imperial March. Just go with it. But also, I took this poor child to go see Stone Temple Pilots, and I screamed plush into her ear while she made funny faces. Parenting. Hashtag. I'm done talking now.
How the fuck am I supposed to follow that? But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am Dorian Price. I have been your weird-ass judge for the evening. We didn't really judge anything. We just bitched at each other like, this movie is not so good. I know, right? If only every trial could be like that in real life.
That'd be great.
Hey, future President Kamala Harris, Supreme Court judge, I can make a whole lot of things better. I got the hair. It'll be kind of like a rock star. But, I am Dorian Price at Frikey Pictures. If it needs to be photographed, if it needs to be filmed, if it needs to be created, edited, give us a call. We want to make your dream a reality. And I'm very proud of you, by the way, Mr. Radulich. You got through an entire podcast without calling my company Wonder Pictures.
Yeah, I'm not hosting.
So. You're like, I couldn't do it. You're in charge this time. You can mute me. But no, folks, again, thank you so much for being here tonight with us. It's been a really fun time talking about this. And thank you again for being here for my first time hosting. I'll find out as soon as we go in this stream how horrible I did. So tell me in the comments how horrible I did, and we'll look forward to it. And again, we'll see you next time. Be good to yourselves and stay safe. Bye-bye.
You got to end the stream.
I did.
You got to end the stream, pal.